could be like that. All right. So to truly understand Virgo, you need to understand how it complements some signs and how it clashes with others. So Virgo is a mutable sign. So the good thing about Virgo is very flexible. So mutable signs are very flexible indeed. However, the problem with Virgo being a mutable sign is that it squares and opposes the other mutable signs. So it opposes Pisces and it squares Sagittarius and Gemini. So think about how those other mutable signs get down, and then think about how Virgo gets down. And then you'll really start to understand what really gets under Virgo's skin, where Virgo can't cope, where Virgo needs areas of improvement. So look at it that way. And Virgo is a negative sign, meaning it's more receptive than it, project where it receives more than it projects out. So that's why it's very sensitive, and that's why it's good to really look at how those other signs impact Virgo. And then you can look at the signs that complement Virgo, like Scorpio and Taurus and Capricorn, and think about how they help Virgo to feel more at ease. Just think about how they help Virgo to feel more organized, how they help Virgo to feel more together, more whole, more at peace. So that's a good way to understand Virgo, because Virgo can be, I have to admit, Virgo does tend to get a very bad rap. But in the same vein, Virgo does it to themselves. However, Virgo really can't help it, because this is what Virgo was put on this earth to do. Virgo was put on this earth to criticize, to analyze, to categorize, to create order, to create structure, to create habit. You've heard of that term, force of habit, habitual, to create routines, to be straight up and down. You've heard of the term squares. Squares you can look at as squares is a slang term, and a lot of pimps use that word, squares. Squares just means like a person that follows the law, that follows the rules. Their life is on the straight and narrow. They don't do anything wrong. Like they might be a social drinker and stuff. They might be a cigarette smoker, but they're basically straight up and down. So that's what a square is. So you can see Virgo ideally as a square type person, because Virgo also deals with etiquette, mannerisms, what you call being an upstanding individual, being civil, being conscientious, knowing right from wrong. Like Virgo is that safety patrol. Virgo is that crossing guard. Virgo is very helpful. Virgo is all about service. So also, to truly understand Virgo, you got to understand the planet Mercury. Mercury rules Virgo. Mercury also rules Gemini. And if you notice, those are two mutable signs. Mercury is about flexibility. Mercury is about speed. Mercury deals with the conscious mind. So when I think about Mercury and Virgo and Gemini, one of the things I think about is dancing and also martial arts. And dancing really, when you really got to put your whole body into it. And one Virgo in particular that's a dancer is Rosie Perez. And if you remember with Rosie Perez, she put her whole body into her dancing. And she would jerk her body and all that stuff. But also, when I think about Virgo, I think about Gemini and Virgo with this, but this is very much Mercury's influence. I think about B-boys, pop locking, all that up rocking, all that. To me, that's Mercury, that's Gemini, that's Virgo. Especially that neat pop locking, that's Virgo. Like, cause it's like they have total command over their body and like it's perfected. That technique, that whole ticking, when they do that ticking, I've always been see, I was a hip hop head ever since I was a young kid, and I love like B Street, and I just love B boys. Oh my God, I love them. And I do have Virgo intercepted in my 8th house, so it was a physical attraction I had to them, but also just the dance, the art form, just the street, all of that. So yeah. So just think about Mercury and how it acts. And I want to also get into, so you got the planet Mercury, right? But you also got the element Mercury. Now, the element Mercury and the planet Mercury, they're both volatile. So they're both like unstable, like they could change at any time. They're not stable. They're not static. So both Mercury and the element Mercury and the planet Mercury are very akin to each other. So I say that Mercury can be an angel or it can be an imp, like a little devil, but it's essentially neutral. So I'm just going to read a little bit about Mercury, the element. Mercury is a chemical element with symbol Hg and atomic number 80. It's commonly known as quicksilver and was formerly named hydrargyrum. A heavy silvery D-block element, Mercury is the only metallic element that is liquid at standard conditions for temperature and pressure. So if you ever seen what Mercury looks like, it's real cool looking. It's like this silver, real thick, viscous, liquidy metal. So if you've never seen what Mercury looks like, just Google it. Google the element Mercury. So Mercury is the only metallic element that is liquid at standard conditions for temperature and pressure. The only other element that is liquid under these conditions is bromine, though metals such as cesium, gallium, and rubidium melt just above room temperature. Mercury occurs in deposits through the world mostly as cinnabar. The red pigment vermilion is obtained by grinding natural cinnabar or synthetic mercuric sulfide. Mercury is used in thermometers, barometers, manometers. I can't pronounce that other one. It's some nometers. Float valves, mercury switches, mercury relays, fluorescent lamps, and other devices. Now, check this out. It's used in fluorescent lighting. Now, this is interesting because I learned this today I knew that because I know that when you break a fluorescent bulb, that's not a good thing. So I did know that. However, it's also used as an amalgam for dental fillings, and there's been controversy over that because mercury, is very toxic to the human body. So that you need to think about that when you're thinking about the planet Mercury. Mercury is neutral, so it can go either way. It could go in a positive way, or it could go in a negative way, and they can tend to go to the extreme. So I always feel like fluorescent lighting is very extreme for me, and that's why I always had a problem working those 9-to-5 jobs where you're in an office with the fluorescent lights. And any chance I would get, if I worked in one of them real small offices at a small company, I would either turn the lights off if I was just the only one in the office. Like, if I had my own office, I would never have fluorescent lights on because they would hurt my eyes. And I do have Mars in my 6th house. So that could deal with that. And then I have Virgo intercepted in my 8th, and then Mercury is forming a sesame square to my Saturn. So, I've always been very sensitive to that fluorescent lighting. So it's funny that Mercury is in it like that. But also, I'm sorry, let's see. So Mercury is a heavy, silvery, white liquid metal. Compared to other metals, it is a poor conductor of heat, but a conductor of electricity. They talk about Mercury's extreme volatility and how it delves deep into the realm of quantum physics, which very much, it sounds like Mercury the planet, because Mercury, like I said, Mercury is not predetermined. Like, Mercury is neutral and it could go either way, like, seriously, and in that vein, it's very volatile. So I just wanted to draw that connection between Mercury the planet and Mercury the element. But also, Wikipedia draws the connection as well. So they say the element Mercury was named after the Roman god Mercury, known for his speed and mobility. It is associated with the planet Mercury The astrological symbol for the planet is also one of the alchemical symbols for the metal. The Sanskrit word for alchemy, rasavatam, which means the way of Mercury. Mercury is the only metal for which the alchemical planetary name became the common name. That's dope. All right. So, next section. This is called the quintessential Virgo. And I posted about this lovely gentleman today on my Real Talk Astrology group. So, this is what I wrote in my Real Talk Astrology group. I said, now, see, this is what I'm talking about. I have this strong physical attraction to Virgo with the sign being in my 8th house. Jan Matzliger was so fine. I would have tried to meet him had I been alive back then. LOL. His bio is a fine representation of Virgo's purpose and characteristics. So I just wanted to read a little brief snippet of his bio because it is the epitome of Virgo. So that's why I named this section of the episode the quintessential Virgo. And I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly, but I remember seeing his face before, Black History Month, or when you're just looking at inventors. And I remember always swooning over him, like, oh, my God, look at him. He is so fine. Like, if I was alive back then, I would have been all over him. So, yeah, he definitely has that look that I like. And that's the thing with Virgo. They have those keen, sharp facial features, which I like those delicate, I'm not going to say pencil thin, but it's just neat. I like to call it neat, sharp. Got that look that I really, really like, that clean look. All right. So Jan Ernst Matzlinger was a revolutionary in the shoe industry with the invention of the lasting machine. Matzlinger was born on a coffee plantation in Dutch Guinea, now Suriname. Interesting, because I just was contacted by a high school student in Suriname asking me for her help in choosing and if you're listening, hey, how you doing? Asking me for her help in choosing a career path, a field of study, because she'll be entering college soon. Interesting. Synchronicity is big in my life. So his father, Ernst Matzlinger, was a third-generation Dutchman of German descent living in the Dutch Guinea capital of Paramaribo. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right. He owned and operated the colonial shipworks that had been in his family for 3 generations. His mother was a house slave of African descent. She lived on the plantation of which his father was owner for a time. So his father was a white slave master, and his mother was a house slave. At the age of 10, Jan Matzlinger was apprenticed in the colonial shipworks Paramaribo. So apprenticeship is Virgo, where he demonstrated a natural aptitude, Virgo, for machinery and mechanics, Virgo. He left Dutch Guinea at age 19. Is it Dutch Guyana or Guinea? I think it's Guyana. I'm sorry, like I said. At age 19 and worked as a mechanic, again Virgo, on a Dutch East Indies merchant ship for several years before settling in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Synchronicity. I used to live in Philly, where he first learned the shoe trade. Maybe me and him have some past life connection or something. By 18, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised because I know that, and with Virgo intercepted in my 8th house, that very well could be true because that 8th house, it does deal with regeneration of the soul, all that stuff. So let's say somebody's south node was in your 8th house. That could definitely be like this person was either like, I'm saying basically if this person lived before you lived, and they died before you came on this earth, and their south node is in your 8th, or there's some strong 8th house energy, there's some strong Pluto energy connected with the nodes, there's a good chance that you could have been that person reincarnated. So if you have a strong feeling or a strong attachment to somebody like that has passed on, it could be a historical figure or something, put your chart together and see what turns up. Now, you may not have been that person, but you may have known them. in a past life. Like, you might have been their wife. Maybe I was this man's wife. Who knows? Anyway, by 1877, he spoke adequate English. Dutch was his native tongue, and moved to Massachusetts to pursue his interest in the shoe industry. So he's the epitome of Virgo, and he even has that Virgo look, that nice, neat, trim look. I also noticed that Virgos have very distinctive mouths. And some of their mouths are very nice and very attractive, but and it's funny because my oldest daughter, she was the one who pointed this out. She was like, a lot of Virgos got something wrong with their mouths, and I started paying attention. And it might be their teeth. It might be that their teeth are kind of extra crowded, or they're crooked in some way, or they got dental problems, or their mouth just might be a little crooked, or their mouth might be extra small or extra tight, or something like that. So, yeah. All right. So, Virgo intercepted in my 8th house. Basically, that deals with me having a strong need to help people who are in crisis. So that speaks to my extensive work experience as a social worker. I was a case manager of a homeless shelter. I worked in the foster care system. What else have I done? I've worked as a TSS, which is therapeutic staff support. That's basically where I had to shadow a student. So basically, this was a sweet-ass job, and I've had some sweet jobs over the years. That's part of me being a Sagittarius, Uranus on my midheaven. But this job was sweet as hell because all I had to do was go to school with this boy, and I ended up loving him. Like, oh, he was and I ended up becoming very attached to his family. He was the Aries. Well, he is the Aries. And still to this day, I think I connected with him, like, maybe like a couple of years ago just to say hi or whatever. He, by his grandmother, him and his sister, and his parents, they weren't in his life. His father had died, suicide, and his mother was on crack, so she wasn't in his life at all, really. So the grandma, the father's mother, was raising them. So he was diagnosed with ADHD, naturally because of what happened with his father and all that. So he was on meds and all that stuff. So I, as a therapeutic staff support, would have to go to his school, meet him at school, and sit behind him in class all day. And I would get paid full. I was full time, so I got paid pretty decent salary just to sit behind him and keep him on task. So whenever he would get out of hand, I would just have to be like, hey, you better straighten up. And sometimes I had to I'd be like, now you don't want your aunt to you don't want me to tell your aunt, you don't want me to tell your mom, all that stuff. But he really respected me, and we developed a really good relationship. But he was in the 5th. I was with him when he was in the 5th and 6th grade. And I even went to summer camp with him and everything. That's how serious this program was, where they were determined to help. It was called a wraparound program. And people who are in the social work field, they may know what I'm talking about when I say wraparound, where it was like they wanted to bring the social work services directly to the clients. And so that's where they had, okay, we're going to have this TSS, therapeutic staff support, where they go into the school and actually sit with the child and all that stuff. And sometimes he wouldn't take his meds, and he would turn around and he'd be like, I didn't take my meds today, and give me this little evil smile. And I knew that day he would be cutting up. So I knew, okay, this day I can't be writing, because I was writing for a book. I was writing a book while I was on that job. And here I am digressing, but I was writing a book because, what do you do all day when you're just sitting there? Oh, I got a crazy story about that job too, but I don't know if I should tell it. Maybe I should save it for Capricorn season. But anyway, yeah, I'll save it for Capricorn season. But anyway, I forgot what I was going to say about that job. But that was a sweet gig. Oh, although what wasn't sweet was that, and this is Virgo intercepted in my 8th house, he went to a Catholic school. So if anybody knows about Catholic school, there's this proverbial notion about nuns and how they could be mean. Well, that was true for a few of them in there. So my client's teacher in particular, and he had this chick 2 years in a row, and I was like, when I stepped in there in the 6th grade, I was like, God damn it. Wait a minute, was I with him for the 4th and the 5th or the 5th and the 6th? I can't remember. Anyway, so when I saw her the 2nd year, I was like, God damn it. When I talk about this lady was mentally and psychologically abusive to her students, and I had to sit there and grin and bear it, and how she would talk down, and she would say to my client, she would put my client on blast and be like, did you have your meds today? Which is totally against HIPAA rules. You're not supposed to be disclosing what goes on with a student in terms of their medical history and their file and all that, and their diagnosis. So I would see her like totally being out of line. She was always killing kids' self-esteem. It was horrible. I forget what her sign was. I think she was an Aquarius. I think she was. But anyway, this woman, oh my God, she was horrible. So yeah, that was the 8th house, Virgo intercepted in my 8th house. Loving that job, but at the same time having to deal with that hatred from that teacher. And so she didn't like me. And the school principal, who was the head nun, she didn't like me either. The head nun didn't like, because, you know, I was real, of course, I've always been real spiritual and mystical and stuff. So she could see that in me. So she didn't like that, and she didn't like that I was free-spirited, and there'd be times when I would just roll in there like an hour late. So a couple of times she called me into her office, which wasn't even her protocol because I worked for an agency, and she was like, yeah, you shouldn't have. But the thing was, my client was fine, like, but whatever. All right, moving along. I'm digressing. So Virgo, as I always say, if it wasn't for Virgo, our lives would be a mess. You might as well say our lives would be a hot mess, because Virgo is about keeping things in order. So like I said during Leo season, I said Leo is the party. No, let me back up. I started off with Cancer. I was like, Cancer makes the preparations for the party. So Cancer's in the kitchen cooking, making the fried chicken, making the potato salad, making the collard greens and all that stuff for that party and all that stuff. Then Leo is the party itself. And then Virgo is left to clean up after the party is over. And that's why Virgo has an attitude a lot of times, because who wants to have to clean up after everybody's done had their fun? And the thing is, Virgo's at the party, during the party, but Virgo can't have too much fun because Virgo's looking around, looking like, damn, how much am I going to have to clean up when these fools are done wrecking the house, or when they're done making a mess? And Virgo is surveying the scene and looking at every little mess that's being made and calculating how much time it's going to take for them to do that, and how much time it's going to take for them to bust those suds in the kitchen and mop the floor and all that stuff. And they're constantly watching somebody. They keep bumping into that lamp, and they're scared that lamp going to fall on the floor. They're watching everything. They're very observant. So that's part of the reason why Virgos are always jittery. They're always looking for things that need to be fixed, looking for things that need to be corrected. And if everything is all right, unfortunately, Virgo tends to turn their attention inwardly to themselves and starts picking at themselves, or they'll turn it outwardly onto others and start picking at others. Because Virgo is about fixing what is wrong. Virgo is the quintessential repair man, the maintenance man. So Virgo is just naturally inclined to be pessimistic, because Virgo's job is to fix what's broken. Virgo's job is to engage in corrective action, to set things straight. Virgo's job is to set things in a straight line, in a straight order, and say, look, okay, this goes over here, this goes over here, this needs to be here, this needs to be here. They're built for that. So one of the worst things for Virgo is if they don't have nothing to do. And that's when their nerves will get the best of them, and then that's when they'll start to really lean towards the dark end. So the worst thing for a Virgo is to not have any purpose in life, and to not have a sense of duty and a sense of self-determination. Because if they don't have that, then they will tend to be the dark-sided manifestation of Virgo. They will tend to be that insufferable Virgo that so many people despise. So Virgo always needs to make themselves useful. Capricorn is the same way. Taurus, not so much. Taurus needs to be making money, but Taurus tends to, like, they'll take the route of least resistance, because Taurus really don't like to put in that backbreaking work. But Virgo will, because Virgo at the end of the day would rather be working than resting, because that is their purpose, and their mind is rarely at rest. Some Virgos' minds are never at rest, and that's why Virgo opposes Pisces. Pisces is the sign of sleep. Virgo is the sign where, okay, up and at 'em, rise and shine, alarm clock. The alarm clock is so Virgo. Think about it. Most people despise their alarm clock, even though we would be lost without it. So nowadays, a lot of us have our alarm clocks on our phone, and we set our phone. And unless you're just one of those early riser type of people and you're just cheery and every day you just want to take on the world, well, when you hear that alarm clock, or especially if, you do something for a living that you can't stand. So when you hear that alarm clock, you're despising that sound. But you need that sound. That's Virgo. So unfortunately, if, some of my Virgo listeners are taking this to heart, hopefully you can relate to what I'm saying. That's why a lot of times you tend to be on the negative end, you tend to be on the pessimistic end, you tend to be on the very critical end, because it's your job to fix things. It's your job to mend things. It's your job to set things straight, to set things in order. It's in the delivery of it that can be one of your major problems. So in the delivery of helping people, in the delivery of trying to correct people, that's where you need to try to take a more softened approach. But the thing with Virgo, again, you got to go back to Mercury. Mercury doesn't know anything about soft approaches. Mercury doesn't know anything about feelings. Mercury just does. And Mercury is largely influenced by the sign that it's in, as well as the aspects and all of that. Now, Mercury, ruler of Virgo, is at the 16th degree of Sagittarius in my 11th house. So that speaks of my spiritual advising practice, because like I said, I have a need to help people in crisis. And a lot of my clients, they do come to me in crisis, whether it's a minor crisis, just dealing with a boyfriend or a breakup or whatever, or it could be a major crisis where somebody's in the hospital. So I live for this stuff. And that's what I mean about Virgo being useful. So wherever Virgo is in your chart, whatever house it falls in, that's where you want to be useful. That's where you want to be deemed useful. So with me, it's dealing with people who are in crisis, people who are in serious despair, people who are feeling like they're on the edge, they're on their wits' end, people who are facing mysteries or the unknown, and they need help. The 8th house also deals with the occult, and I'm an occultist. And then Mercury being in Sag, that's spirituality. So that speaks of my spiritual advising practice. So, yeah. And I've done a little bit of mediumship work too. The 8th house is the house of mediums as well. Now, Virgo, you've heard of in high school or college, you might have had to take a class called life skills. That's Virgo. So that life skills class you had to take, or just the term life skills, that's Virgo. So as I said before, if it wasn't for Virgo, our lives would be a mess. So Virgo is about civil service and civil servants. So Virgo is service. So when you hear the term civil service, civil servant, that's Virgo. So just think about the military. I ascribe a few signs as key indicators of the military. So that would be Aries, Libra, Capricorn, and Virgo. Virgo is ideal for the military exactly because of the values that the military espouses, the order, the cleanliness, the neatness. Think about as soon as soldiers get into boot camp. If we're talking about the men, they get their hair cut. If we're talking about the women, I believe the women have to pull their hair back or braid it, or it has to be very neat looking. Their uniforms have to be always neat. Everything has to be to the letter. Everything has to be to the T. Why? Because it has to be a tightly run unit so that you reduce the odds of chaos, because in chaos, you can easily be defeated by the enemy. Virgo is the opposite of chaos. In the vein of the military, and then that's another thing. So I've noticed also people with strong Virgo energy in their charts, there's a good chance that they could have been in the military or they could have had a parent in the military. I've had 2 Virgo exes, and they both were in the Army. So there you go with that. And then just think about postal workers. Just think about how a mail carrier, postal worker, or even just working at the post office, sorting mail and stuff, that's very Virgo. And just think about the proverbial dog biting the mail carrier, the postal worker. So that is very Virgo as well, because Virgo deals with small animals. So dogs, cats, anything like a size of a goat or smaller is Virgo 6th house. So just think about how a lot of postal workers, how a lot of mail carriers get those jobs because they were in the military. There's a direct link between post office jobs and the military. They get those jobs. Military veterans get post office jobs very easily. Case in point, my grandfather, he's no longer with us, rest in peace. He served in the Navy. And after he got out of the Navy, he went to work for the post office for many years. So, and he was kind of, you heard of this term. They don't really use this term anymore, but they used to use this term called postal, talking about postal workers going crazy and shooting up the place. So back in the 80s and 90s, there was several stories of like postal workers going crazy and shooting up places. So there was this running joke about people going postal. So just think about Mercury again and how it's a volatile planet. Think about how it rules Virgo, also how it rules Gemini. And both of those signs, when pushed to the limit, they can like snap and just be like ultra violent. All the mutable signs can. So that points to the whole going postal thing. And then also your average cop is very Virgo. So just like the military, there's certain signs that points to cops. So law enforcement in general, especially if you're talking about the chief of police, the commissioner, police commissioner, that's Capricorn. But if you're talking about the low-level cop, the beat-walking cop, just the patrol cop, that's Virgo, because they're basically civil servants. So that can explain the reason for all this police brutality. I'm sorry, Virgo, but I have to go in on y'all with this. Like, because y'all just get nuts when it comes to y'all being upset. So just think about the average crazy, hot-headed cop, and think about the sign Virgo, and think about how Virgo has this nervous condition with them, and think about how the hot-headed, trigger-happy cop, his excuse is always, the person can have a toothbrush. I thought it was a gun, so they shot 50 bullets in them. That's Virgo because, like I said, Virgo is a mutable sign. What mutable signs do is they can snap. And when they snap, they go into a whole direction. They'll go into one direction. They'll go to the extreme until stopped by an outside force until they just burn out. That's how mutable signs work. So think about police brutality and how that can relate to the dark manifestation of Virgo. Also, cops always, there's also been, it's very well known that a lot of cops become cops because they were picked on in high school. You know, they were bullied or they might have got bullied at home. So they feel like they got something to prove. A lot of cops might be just naturally insecure, so they feel like they got something to prove. And then some cops in general, now on the light manifestations, there are some good cops. Not all cops are bad. So on the light manifestation, again, it's about civil service. And what is that motto of the police? To protect and serve. Virgo. So you do have some really good cops, but it's a shame that the bad cops give all cops a bad name. But hey, that's the nature of the beast. And Virgo, take that to heart because Virgo in general tends to get a bad name. And a lot of the occupations that fall under Virgo, they're either lackluster or just not, run of the mill or very menial, or they get bad names. So anything that deals with, having to report people, Virgo. So nobody likes to get written up or reported. Anything that deals with monitoring is very Virgo. Oh, so back to what I was saying about the cops. So, I was like, Capricorn would be like the chief of police, the police commissioner, all that stuff. And Virgo would be the beat walking cop, the patrol cop. And then Scorpio would be that detective. Now, that's my favorite type of law enforcement officer, the detective. Because I'm like, they're the ones who are really intelligent. They're the ones who are ultra intuitive. See, I'm getting chills because I love detective. With my North Node is Scorpio in my midheaven, that's why I love detectives so much. That's why I'm getting all like, ooh. But yeah, I love detectives. I know I could be a detective if I wasn't so squeamish. I am very, very squeamish, but when it comes to cases, I'm on it. But okay, so I'm just gonna go through some common Virgo occupations. So if you have strong Virgo energy in your chart, it doesn't have to be your Sun in Virgo. It could be your Mars in Virgo. It could be your Saturn in Virgo. It could be your Mercury in Virgo, Virgo rising. Some of these occupations you might have had before, or some, you might want to consider these if you're a younger person and you're listening. And did I mention martial arts? I'm not sure if I did. But martial arts is very Virgo 6th house. So that is a very Virgo 6th house occupation, to be a martial arts instructor. So like karate, taekwondo, all that stuff. And the reason why is, again, Virgo deals with perfection, but Virgo also deals with full assimilation of the body, full use of the body, efficiency, order, discipline. Just think about how martial arts is. It's very disciplined. It's not just about fighting. It's a whole way of life. And some martial arts, they even talk about, they basically are like, you should eat this type of diet or whatever like that. And they always have this mythology along with it. And it's very educational along with the fighting is just one small component. But when it comes to the fighting, it's the most perfected form. So martial arts is very Virgo. So if I'm doing a natal chart and I see like somebody has North Node in Virgo in the 6th house, or they have Mars in Virgo, or there's strong 6th house energy, strong Virgo energy, I might say that, either you took martial arts as a kid or you take martial arts now. And 9 times out of 10, I'm right. And yoga is another very Virgo activity. So yoga instructor is very Virgo because, again, Virgo deals with having that full command of of the body, full integration of all your parts. And that's another thing I wanted to mention about Virgo. So Virgo is like Virgo in the 6th house. You look at it as Virgo, and then Libra is next. So Virgo, 6th house, 7th house. So just think about when company was coming over, right? And your parents was like, get yourself together, clean your room, because grandma's coming over. Or because Uncle Leon's coming over, clean up, straighten up. That's Virgo. Because then after Virgo, you got Libra. That's the public. That's you so that's you meeting other people. That's you facing other people. So Virgo also deals with grooming, etiquette, manners, having good habits. And a lot of that's falling out the window with the younger generation. But practicing good habits and stuff, just being common courtesy is very Virgo. So that's what, when straighten up and act right, when your parents would tell you, or, when we get in this store, you better not say nothing, or you better not, don't ask me for nothing. Don't, y'all better, if y'all cut up, what's coming to you. That's Virgo, because you're going into Libra next, and Libra is you're presenting yourself to the public, so you need to present yourself in the best light. So that's why I just think about when you're trying to impress somebody. Now, in terms of dating, that's 5th house, but 7th house just deals with other people in general. So it doesn't have to be just going out on a date. It could just be you're going to a party or you're going to some social event. Well, aren't you going to take more time primping and getting ready in the mirror and stuff. That's Virgo. That's sixth house. Then it's going into that seventh house, so you are presentable to the public. You are presentable to others. You want to put your best foot forward. All right, more jobs, more occupations. I mentioned mail carriers, cops, meter maids. So those people that give you a ticket because the meter ran out. Accountants is very Virgo. Tax preparers, administrative assistants, executive assistants. If you ever seen that movie 9 to 5, it's that old 80s movie with Dolly Parton, Jane Fonda, Lily Tomlin. Lily Tomlin is a Virgo in real life, and she played that. If you just watch that movie to get an idea of how a Virgo is in the workplace. Now, she was a light-sided Virgo, and she was the typical Virgo that laid down her life for her job and was doing everything her boss wanted, was going over and beyond the call of duty, which is the title of tonight's show, Virgo Call of Duty. She was going over and beyond the call of duty, and she didn't get the promotion that she went out for. They gave it to some young dude, but she was ultra loyal and all that stuff. She trained the new hires. That is so Virgo. So trainer as well. Being a trainer is Virgo. If you're doing on-the-job training, that's Virgo. If you're in an apprenticeship, that's Virgo. So vocational type of work is Virgo. Craft type, if you're a craftsman, craftsmanship, that's Virgo. So receptionists, nurses, of course, caregivers, child care providers, housekeepers, the help, the quintessential butler is Virgo, or should I say, the butler is the quintessential Virgo, or Virgo is the quintessential butler. So there was this documentary I posted in Real Talk Astrology. It was called The Servant, and that was so Virgo. Everything they were talking about was very Virgo, even down to these servants' personalities. Maids, short order cooks, prep cook, chefs, mechanics, car wash. If you work for a car wash, or if you own a car wash, you might have a Virgo stellium. If you own a laundromat, or if you work at a laundromat, you might have a Virgo stellium. Seamstress. If you work at the cleaners, or you own a cleaners, you might have some Virgo energy, Saturn and Virgo, what have you, Virgo midheaven. Orchestra conductor, and I spoke about this in Real Talk Astrology because I was doing this natal the other night for Virgo, and I was just looking at, she had North Node in Virgo, and I was just thinking about, I don't know what made me think of the orchestra conductor in particular, but that's what made me think. I was like, orchestra conductors are very Virgo, just the way they are, very perfectionistic, very anal. They have this serious grimace on their face. Very uptight. Street construction workers, so those people that work on the streets, that's very Virgo. Janitor, maintenance, facilities management, animal trainer, animal shelter employee or manager, nail technician, manicurist. So that's just some of the occupations. There's many more because Virgo is very, very versatile. So real quick, I just wanted to get into the assimilation, integration aspect of Virgo because Virgo deals with assimilation and integration. And again, like I said, in the physical sense, assimilation is basically you eating food. So Virgo is very much related to food and diet, deals with the lower stomach and the intestines. So it's part of the digestive system. So assimilation in terms of the physical body, that's you eating food, and then Virgo's job is to take that food and extract the nutrients and the minerals and vitamins and send it to where it needs to go in the body. That's assimilation. And then integration is basically all of your cells and all your tissues and all of that stuff working together fine. So that's why Virgo deals with health as well, because Virgo, it's about integration of all the components of your body that produces a healthy constitution. And Virgo generally has a healthy constitution, or they like to remain healthy. So they're very much conscious about their health. So you'll see a lot of health nuts being Virgo, or they may not be a Virgo sun. They may be Virgo rising. They might have a Virgo stellium. They might have a sixth house stellium. So they're going to be very health conscious. They might be all into organic foods. They might be a vegan, vegetarian. They might be a pescatarian. Very much into food, diet, fitness as well. So fitness instructor, personal trainer could be Virgo as well. So again, and then assimilation, integration, aside from physical in terms of the body, is also social. So that's where the whole integrating into society, assimilating into a culture, that's Virgo. So another thing I noticed is, and this can go hand in hand with the military as well, I noticed that people who have strong Virgo energy in their charts, or if it's they have strong sixth house energy, there's a good chance they moved around when they were younger a lot, or they could have had one major relocation that was very significant in their life because they had to assimilate, they had to integrate into a new society, assimilate into a new culture. So in that vein, I'm going to get into Pluto and Virgo real quick, and I'm going to talk about the civil rights era. So Pluto and Virgo usher in several civil rights acts. So right when Pluto was at the 0 degree of Virgo, and right when Pluto entered Virgo, 1957, Civil Rights Act of 1957, this was passed on September 9th, 1957. So this was passed during Virgo season. Let me pull up the chart real quick. Okay, so there was a stellium in Virgo going down. You had the Sun in Virgo, Mercury was in Virgo, Mars was in Virgo, Pluto in Virgo. Stellium in Virgo, hence assimilation, integration, civil rights. Virgo deals with civil. So I'm just going to read real quick about this Civil Rights Act of 1957. Enacted September 9, 1957, primarily a voting rights bill, was the first federal civil rights legislation passed by the United States Congress since the Civil Rights Act of 1875. Civil Rights Act of 1957 was also Congress showed support for the Supreme Court Brown decision, Brown versus Board of Education, 1954, which had eventually led to the integration, keyword integration, also called desegregation of public schools. Following the Supreme Court ruling, Southern whites in Virginia began a massive resistance. Violence against blacks rose there and in other states, as in Little Rock, Arkansas, blah, 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 blah. Moving along, Civil Rights Act of 1960. This Civil Rights Act of 1960 was passed on May 6, 1960. Just going to pull up the chart real quick. So there was a stellium in Virgo on this day as well, with the moon being in Virgo, the North Node was in Virgo, and Pluto was in Virgo. Again, integration, civil rights. And then I got one more. Civil Rights Act of 1964. That was passed on July 2nd, 1964. And on that day, Uranus and Pluto were in Virgo. So there it is right there. That Virgo influence was very dominant with respect, very influential, I'll say, with respect to the civil rights era and integration and all of that stuff. Now, the lunar nodes I'm going to get into real quick, and then I'm going to get into some famous Virgo charts, not too many because I want to open up the phone lines. And then, I'm going to get into some famous charts, but I wanted to get into the lunar nodes because the lunar nodes are one of my specialties. I really don't have that, I really don't have a calling card about lunar nodes saying that, but I like to consider it one of my specialties because I love them so much, and you could gain so much insight into a person's life, not just their current life, but their past life by examining the nodes. So, South Node in Virgo, North Node in Pisces. Basically, in past lives, you were too much of a worker bee. You were too much about following the rules. You were too much about walking the straight and narrow, having to run a tight ship. You could have actually spent many lifetimes in the military. So, again, that military connection. And so, as a result, you're just such a clean freak. Everything has to be so neat and orderly. It's like you could bounce a dime off your bed. Now, that is one manifestation of South Node of Virgo. There could be another manifestation where the person lives more so in their through their North Node of Pisces. But the way you'll be able to tell is through the aspects and where planets and the sun and moon line up in the chart and all of that stuff. But for those who live more through their South Node in Virgo, they're going to take that Virgo energy to the extreme, not all the time, but in some cases. So you're talking about the serious hypochondriac, the serious vegan, the person that is like counting every calorie, the person that religiously goes to the gym, the person that is super hypercritical, that is very superficial, that is judging everybody, the person that, is only happy if they have something to complain about, the person that's always worrying over the basically the most trivial matters, and the person that they'll have a dream. This is the North Node in Pisces kicking in, because in this lifetime they're supposed to pay attention to their dreams with that North Node of Pisces. That South Node in Virgo will kick in. They'll have a dream about a loved one, and because that dream is weird, they will take it seriously and run with it and start being very worried about what's going to happen and think that the whole world's going to cave in. And that's the thing they have to understand. Like, yes, you're supposed to get messages through your dreams in this lifetime, but you still got to use that South Node in Virgo. You still got to use that Virgo energy to discern between what's real and what's unreal. And that's another key word of Virgo, discernment. Discernment, but also discrimination. And a lot of times we hear the term discrimination, we look at it as a negative automatically. But discrimination is actually a good thing in a lot of cases, because if we didn't have discrimination, our lives, again, would be a mess. Because discrimination allows us to basically look both ways when we're crossing the street, or, we might meet a new person, but especially us people that are into astrology, what are we going to do? We are going to get their birth date, and we're going to pull their chart. That's going to be one of the first things that we do. And so we can determine, we can discriminate, we can analyze, we can criticize that chart and see if they're compatible with us, to see if they're going to be a major pain in the ass, to see if they're going to be, somebody that might actually compliment us. So that South Node in Virgo, basically, you have to step outside of yourself. You're too much into yourself. You're too much in your head. So you got to be more out there in this lifetime with that North Node in Pisces. You have to learn to let go. You have to travel really helps, but not the type of travel where you're planning every segment of the trip, where you're planning every minute of the day, like you got this stiff itinerary and like, okay, at 2 o'clock we're going to do this, and at 3:25 we're going to do this. No. Pisces is about getting away, escaping, just letting everything go for a while and just being with the flow, being one with the flow, having that universal consciousness, merging with others. Instead of cutting everything up, instead of dicing everything up and dissecting everything like Virgo can do, Virgo can also make a good doctor. Just like Virgo is prone to do, how doctors will diagnose you? That's Virgo. That's Scorpio, too, diagnosing. But Virgo in particular, how they'll diagnose you and they'll give you a checkup and look under your arms to see if there's any lumps, and they'll put the stethoscope on your back and all of that stuff. Well, Virgo needs to really move away from that and just let go. And a lot of it is tied up with how they see people. So if Virgo comes across somebody that's very different from them, a lot of times it makes them very uncomfortable, and they don't want to deal with that person at all. And a lot of times it could be somebody that they feel like doesn't have that great of a work ethic, or somebody that lacks, turns of their eyes, certain manners, certain etiquette. Moving on, North Node in Virgo, South Node in Pisces. This one is definitely, I believe, more difficult than the one that I just mentioned, South Node in Virgo, North Node in Pisces. And it makes perfect sense, because that South Node in Pisces is like you could be drowning in your own imagination, drowning in your own emotions, where it's like you can't logically think things through. Everything is about feeling. Everything is about premonition. Everything is about these dreams that you had. Also, South Node in Pisces tends to produce somebody that is wants to be taken care of. They don't want to work hard in life. They don't want to have to get their hands dirty. They want to be put on a pedestal, or they want to be sheltered. Also, addiction is very big, but addiction can be big with South-Node Virgo as well, especially those prescription drugs. So South-Node Virgo could become addicted off of health concerns or off of an injury, and then they start taking medications, and next thing you know, they're living through their North Node in Pisces, but in the dark manifestation of that North Node in Pisces. So North Node in its manifestation isn't always going to be positive. Sometimes it could be downright negative. And then you got two negatives. You got your South Node and your North Node working against you. So with that North Node in Virgo, South Node in Pisces in particular, in past lives you were like this mystical person. You were like this illusionist. In some past lives you were a con artist. Or you could have been a thief. You could have been a vagabond, bum, homeless person. So you got to learn order and structure in this lifetime. So it'll be very common that you're thrust into situations in this current lifetime where you have to clean up after others, where you have to take jobs that you feel are beneath you. Like you have to take this lowly customer service job for like $10.50 an hour, where you're getting shitted on by your boss, and where, you know, you have to not just push paper, but your boss is asking you to take out the trash and all that stuff. And a big part about it, that North Node in Virgo, is you have to humble yourself. Humble yourself. Humbling is very big with Virgo. And that's one of the big problems with the dark-sided Virgos, because dark-sided Virgos more than likely won't humble themselves. Some dark-sided Virgos will humble themselves to such a degree that they become dark-sided in that they use that fact that they're just so humble as a crutch. But when a dark-sided Virgo is not humble, when they're narcissistic, when they're super egotistical, like I said, they can be some of the worst because it goes against their very nature to be full of themselves. It goes against their very nature to be puffed up and to be arrogant, because Virgo is about humility, it's about service, it's about duty, being humble, being grateful for what you have, despite not having much. But Pisces is all about wishing. You know, oh, fantasy. Oh, you know, I want the best. Idealism. Virgo is about idealism too, but in a practical sense, whereas Pisces is very impractical. So those are the manifestations of the lunar node. So now I'm going to get into the light manifestations of Virgo and the dark. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix the famous Virgos into the light and the dark. So I'll be killing two birds with one stone. Virgo is a good multitasker. And I do have Mars and Gemini in my 6th house, so I like to multitask. So here's the light manifestations of Virgo. So I have a few celebrities that I was going to discuss. Some of them I'm just going to name. Others I'm going to talk about their chart in brief. So first person is Nas. Nas is one of my favorite rappers, of course. You know, if you're a hip-hop head, who doesn't love Nas? Like, if you're a hip-hop purist, Nas is in your top 10, I would say, of rappers. So Nas was born on September 14th, 1973. One of his favorite songs, one of my favorites of his is Ether. So I was going to read some of the lyrics. Now, some of these lyrics are kind of vulgar, but basically, I'm reading these lyrics as an example of how Virgo can be in terms of their vocabulary, in terms of their command of the English language, in terms of the way their prose, in terms of their intellect, and how they string words together. So I was going to read some of Ether by Nas. So there's some vulgarity in it, some profanity. So excuse me if, and this is Virgo, so you know Virgo is all about etiquette and manners. So excuse my profanity, but this is for educational purposes. So in one of the verses he says, I've been fucked over, left for dead, dissed and forgotten. Luck ran out. They hoped that I'd be gone, stiff and rotten. Y'all just piss on me, shit on me, spit on my grave. Talk about me, laugh behind my back, but in my face. Now, before I go on, I got to say two things. Now, what I just read right there, that is the epitome of Virgo, because Virgo always feels like they're getting shit on. Let me just read that part again. I love this song, the way he just put these words together. And you could tell this was from his heart. And another thing I wanted to say, this song, if people don't know, if some of you don't know, was written for Jay-Z. So they had this beef going on, but it could have been a marketing scheme. Could have been a gimmick, who knows? Because that happens sometimes. But he went in on Jay-Z, and most people would agree that Nas won out. So let me just repeat this. I've been fucked over, left for dead, dissed and forgotten. Luck ran out. They hoped that I'd be gone, stiff and rotten. Y'all just piss on me, shit on me, spit on my grave. Talk about me, laugh behind my back, but in my face, y'all some well-wishers, friendly acting, envy hiding snakes. With your hands out for my money, man, how much can I take? First, Biggie's your man. Then you got the nerve to say that you better than Big. Dick sucking lips. Why not you let the late, great veteran live? Y'all niggas deal with emotions like bitches. What's sad is I love you because you're my brother. You traded your soul for riches. My child, I watched you grow up to be famous. And now I smile like a proud dad, watching his only son that made it. You seem to be the only concern with dissing women. Were you abused as a child? Scared to smile? They called you ugly? Well, life is hard. Hug me. Don't reject me. Or make records to disrespect me, blatant or indirectly. In 88, you was getting chased through your building, calling my crib, and I ain't even give you my numbers. All I did was gave you a style for you to run with, smiling in my face, glad to break bread with the God. Wearing jazz chains, no text, no cash, no cars, no jail bars, jigger, no pies, no case, just Hawaiian shirts hanging with little Chase. You a fan, a phony, a fake, a pussy, a stand. I still whip your ass, you 36 in a karate class. Let me stop right there. You notice he said karate class, Virgo, martial arts? You Taibo ho, trying to work it out. You trying to get brolic. Ask me if I'm trying to kick knowledge. Nah, I'm trying to kick that shit you need to learn, though, that ether, that shit that made your soul burn slow. Is he Dame Diddy, Dame Daddy, or Dame Dummy? Oh, I get it. You Biggie, and he's Puffy. Rockefeller died of AIDS. That was the end of his chapter. And that's the guy y'all chose to name your company after? Foxy got you hot because you kept your face in her puss. What you think, you getting girls now because of your look? Negro, please. You know mustache having with whiskers like a rat compared to beans you whack, and your man stabbed and make you take the blame. You ass went from jazz to hanging with Kane to Herb to Big, and Eminem murdered you on your own shit. You a dick-riding faggot. You love the attention. Queen niggas run you niggas. Ask Russell Simmons. Ha, ROC get guns and clap quick. J.J. Evans get gunned up and goes on and on. I'm sorry, guys, but like I said, it got a little raw, a little profanity there, but you know how hip-hop can be, and Virgo likes to keep it real. But, yeah, he went in on Jay-Z, but that is Virgo right there. Do you see how he went into Jay-Z's facial characteristics and all the details? He went into Jay-Z's background, remembered the time when Jay-Z stepped to him and was like, yo, can I be on one of your rhymes? That's the thing. Virgo will remember all of that and will throw it all up in your face when it's time. Okay. So, Nas, again, he was born on September 14, 1973. That 14 breaks down to 5. That's Mercury energy. So that reinforces that energy of Virgo. However, he only has his sun in Virgo. Then he has a stellium in Libra. Mercury could join to Pluto. So that's that ether right there. So that Mercury could join to Pluto and Libra. That adds that artistry with his words. And then that Virgo energy still shines through. So that's what I was talking about. That rhyme has Virgo all over it, but the artistry, the way it flowed, that was that Mercury conjoined to Pluto and Libra like that. So that's a nice blend that he has. And then he has Venus in Scorpio. That's him being real, like, resentful, vindictive. That's where that vitriol came from, like that extra for that Ether song. And then he has Moon conjoined to Chiron. He's had issues with his first child's mother. I forget her name, because I think Jay-Z slept with her. God, what's her name? I forget her name. And then also when he was with Khalees, that didn't end well. And so he got Moon and Chiron in conjunction in Aries. So that points to his issues with women. And Moon conjoined to Chiron is opposing Uranus and Libra. So he has it bad. Any woman he gets with going to be challenging. And he has South Node in Cancer conjoined to Saturn. Oh my God, he has it bad with women. Ooh, I didn't know. This is my first time looking at Nas's chart. Wow. Wow. That's crazy. So his North Node's in Capricorn. That's what's up. But that South Node in Cancer conjoined to Saturn, they're both at the 3rd degree. That is not good. All right, moving along. I got to hurry up. So that was Nas. Keanu Reeves, he is a Virgo. I would consider him definitely on the light manifestation of Virgo. Let me just pull his chart real quick. Where is he? And I've always been attracted to Keanu Reeves. Again, he has the classic Virgo look. He has the classic keen features. Nas has a Virgo look too, but his features aren't as sharp as other Virgos. But Nas has that little boy look, that young, cute boy look. And he still has that look. So that's very Virgo, because Virgo maintains that youthful look for many years, unless they're dealing with some dark energy like Cat Williams. I'm going to get into his chart, too. But Keanu Reeves, I've always been attracted to him. He just has that classic Virgo look. And Keanu Reeves he's born on September 2nd, 1969. It makes sense because he's very family-oriented. He does a lot to help out his sister. His sister is disabled. I forget what she has. But he's always doing things to help her out. And he's very charitable, very helpful, very good Virgo from what I've heard. So his sun is in Virgo, Pluto in Virgo. Then he has a stellium in Libra, consisting of Uranus, Mercury, and Jupiter. His North Node is in Pisces. That points to him being very compassionate. Moon in Taurus, Mars in Sagittarius. So that's pretty. And his Venus is in Leo. Moving along. And Keanu Reeves is very versatile as an actor. Now, people clown him for being an airhead and stuff, but he has played some roles where he had to really, go out on a limb, like The Matrix. But even like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, how he played the airhead dude, I know that wasn't too much of a stretch for him. But he did that, like he played that to a T. And then, but that movie that he did recently, what was it, where he was, some girl kidnapped him or something. That was horrible. I can't remember what that stupid movie was called. Anyway, moving along. I wish I could remember the name. But, yeah, it was some girl. These girls basically trapped him in a house, and he acted like he couldn't fight these girls off. All right. Dougie Fresh is another one that's on a light manifestation. And he always has this neat thing about him. And the way Dougie Fresh danced was very Virgo, because his dances were always very neat and well put together. And how he would do that spin, like that little spin, it was just so. Virgo is a good dancer. And that deals with that versatility, that flexibility. And then, he did the beatboxing and all that. He was like a perfectionist with that, really perfectionist. Hell yeah. All right, Misty Copeland. I love me some Misty Copeland. Misty Copeland is a ballerina, and she is a black ballerina, and she basically beat the odds because they tried to tell her that she was too thick, like too muscular and stuff. And this girl, she is muscular. She is like a powerhouse. She was too muscular to be a ballerina. So she proved them chicks wrong and broke out on the scene. Actually, Prince helped her get a leg up. He did something. I think he hired her. Yeah, he hired her to perform for one of his performances, and she was actually dancing on his piano. So that was real cool. So Misty Copeland, her sun is in Virgo, and then if you just look at her, she is just perfection in terms of her body, her form, the way she moves. So she has Sun and Venus in Virgo, so that makes perfect sense. And then Libra, Libra stellium, which is very ballet is very Libra, but it's very Virgo as well. I would say that it's a combination of the two. So she has Mercury conjoined to Saturn. That Mercury conjoined to Saturn and Libra, that makes her even more perfectionist because Libra is a very idealistic sign. You know, Libra is all about balance and stuff. And with being a ballerina, it's all about balance. Ballerina, balance. So, yes, it makes perfect sense. And then with that Mercury conjoined to Saturn, that's her training hard, training for hours, being very disciplined, having strong control over her body. And her Mars is in Scorpio. Mars in Scorpio will produce a powerhouse type of person, will produce somebody that is extremely strong. A lot of times they may not even know their own strengths until they get really mad and break something or something like that. But Mars in Scorpio, that gives her that stamina, that endurance. It gives her the muscle power. So she's working with some good energy. She got North Node in Cancer, Moon in Gemini. That Moon in Gemini deals with that flexibility. So that's awesome. All right, moving on. Again, we're still in the light manifestation. Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry, some people would say he's dark manifestation because some people would say that he acts like a buffoon and stuff. But I'm going to put him on the light side because he has put a lot of people to work, a lot of people of color he's put to work. He's basically created an empire out of nothing. He had a very hard upbringing, and he's very versatile as an actor. He's definitely better playing Medea than playing himself. Than playing, the male roles. He's not that great to me playing the male roles, but when it comes to playing Medea, he's on point. And Virgo is very much like that when it comes to acting. Like, they're good with method acting, and they're good with where you have to put costumes on and makeup and all that stuff because, again, Virgo deals with integration, assimilation. So Virgo can assimilate into different characters that are way beyond who they really are. So let me just pull. So I've never looked at Tyler Perry's chart either, so this is my first time. He got Sun conjunct Pluto in Virgo, so that makes sense about him changing into Medea because Pluto deals with transformation. So I mentioned before when I talked about this, when I talked about transgender and some of the indicators you can see in your chart, I said Pluto was one of the main indicators of transgender potential or the transgender inclinations because Pluto is the planet of transformation. It changes things fundamentally. So Sun conjunct Pluto, and then he has a stellium in Libra, Mercury, Jupiter, Moon, and Uranus. And his Moon and Uranus are conjoined to each other, and that speaks of him changing into Medea as well. Libra is another sign with men in particular where they can act as women. They can act the role of women, and that's why some Libra men may come across as down low, even though they may be totally straight. And it's because they're very much in touch with the opposite sex, because Libra deals with the opposite sex. And Libra men, they observe women. Virgo men observe women, too. Both of these signs, and you notice they're right next to each other, they're very observant of women when we're talking about men. Libra, I would say even more so. Virgo is just observant, period. But Libra men, they observe women with a purpose because they want to be able to get the one up on them. They want to know what makes them tick so that they know how to operate. It's all that strategicness thing with with Libra. All right, moving along. Let me hurry up because by 8 o'clock, this 8 o'clock my time, I'm going to open up the phone lines because at 8:30, that's when this show is going to end. 10:30, no, I'm sorry, is it 11:30 Eastern Standard Time. Kobe Bryant, another Virgo. Now, I'm going to say he's on a light manifestation, even though he had that rape charge, but that's been really questionable. Matter of fact, I have looked at his chart before. Matter of fact, let me look at it again and see if he has, oh, shit. Okay, he does have Mars conjunct Pluto in Libra. Okay, he's capable. He's capable of doing what he was charged, but that can also point to being falsely accused as well. Kobe Bryant has Sun conjunct Saturn in Virgo. So again, like Misty Copeland, her Mercury was conjoined to Saturn in Libra. that dealt with the ballet, training very hard, training for many hours. Kobe Bryant, Sun conjunct Saturn in Virgo. That's him training for many hours, basically being a perfectionist on the court, being, and he was a lot of people didn't like Kobe, and Kobe was rather arrogant on the court as well. But Kobe and he has that classic Virgo look. Kobe has very good looks. So he has that classic Virgo look with the sharp features and all of that. But, and Kobe Bryant's North Node is in Virgo. So he really had to overcome that South Node in Pisces. But that Pisces South Node also came in handy with him being flexible as well on the court, and him also visualizing, because Pisces is a visualizer. So he would probably be practicing and visualizing himself hitting those jumpers and three-pointers and whatnot. So visualization is very big with Pisces. And if we're talking about North Node in Virgo, South Node in Pisces, you can actually utilize that Pisces South Node to visualize things that you want to actually bring into fruition into the material world. And then you actually bring it into the material world through some type of invention or through perfecting your technique or whatever through visualization. Kobe Bryant has Moon in Taurus. It's conjoined to Chiron. He has issues with women, so that explains the issue with the woman that had the rape charge. And then also remember he had that situation with his wife, Vanessa. Did they ever get a divorce or are they still together? But he got caught cheating, and it was all in the media and all that stuff. What's his Neptune doing? Now, his Neptune's in pretty good shape, despite that media, I don't know what time he was born, though, so his Neptune could be on an angle, could be on his ascendant or whatever. But he has Mercury and Leo. Moving along. Dave Chappelle. I have Dave Chappelle on the light side. That's self-explanatory. Let me pull up his chart. I don't think I've ever seen Dave Chappelle's chart before. Oh, please tell me I pulled it. Oh, my God. I don't think I pulled his chart. I'm going to have to pull it real quick because I definitely want to see his chart. Dave Chappelle. Isn't that something? I swore. All right, good old Dave Chappelle was born August 24th, 1973. Let me just do this real quick. I'm sorry. Bear with me. August 24th, 1973. I know he was born in Washington, D.C. I already have that loaded. I don't know his birth time, but I just want to see what energy he's working with as a Virgo. As a matter of fact, I did pull his chart because I remember I was looking for his Neptune. How come I can't find it? That's weird. Okay. Dave Chappelle, he only has his sun in Virgo, moon in Cancer, which is why he ran off spooked like he did to Africa when things got heated. And his moon is conjoined to his south node in Cancer. So having his big-time career, he was not used to that in this lifetime. And being a Virgo, that really, like, when things happen like that, he freaking got spooked. That's that moon in Cancer conjoined to the south node in Cancer. But then also he has Sun square Neptune. And that points to him escaping. Him feeling like the pressure was on to get him to do something that he didn't want to do something that goes against his integrity, do something like he was around some shady people and he got scared. Neptune is a planet of escape. Neptune's in Sagittarius that deals with traveling far. He got ghosts and was out of there. He also has Venus conjoined to Pluto in Libra. That can make him very suspicious of others, especially suspicious of outsiders. So, yeah. And then he has Venus and Pluto squaring Saturn and the moon in Cancer. So he has it pretty bad when it comes to trusting others and when it comes to dealing with people who are in positions of power where they want him to be in a very subservient role. He's not that type of Virgo that's just going to bend to someone's will just to make some money. He's not that type. All right, moving along. Got to hurry up. Leslie Jones is another Virgo. I'm not going to get into her chart. Idris Elba is a Virgo. we all know how versatile he is with the acting. He's also very good looking. So he has, I'm not going to say he has those classic Virgo looks, but he definitely has that demure Virgo look where his features are delicate. He has that small mouth that look like he like he could just pucker up on your nipple and like just suck on it and stuff like that. Like he got that look going on. And like he would be very detail oriented with your body and like just make sure that like every part of your body is just tingling in the right way. He just got that look to him. Oh, okay, moving along. Cesar Milan. Cesar Milan is that pit bull dude. I mean, not pit bull. He's the dog whisperer or whatever. So Virgo again deals with animals, small animals, pets, and any animal that's like the size of a goat or smaller. So his sun is in Virgo. It's opposing his moon in Pisces, and he was in a scandal involving, I think it was pit bulls or something like that. And then I think he was bit by a pit bull even. Then his North Node in Pisces. Pisces and Virgo, they're very compassionate towards animals. They love animals in general, although not all Virgos do, because then you also got to think about the cleanliness thing. Some Virgos are such neat freaks that they refuse to tolerate animals in their home. So Cesar Milan has Sun in Virgo, Pluto in Virgo. He has a stellium in Libra, Mercury, Uranus, Jupiter, Mars in Sagittarius, Venus in Cancer. Cancer loves animals too. Let me hurry up. And I'm noticing some people are dropping off the line. I hope I'm not boring people. Okay, a couple more, just one more good, I said not good, but on the light manifestation. Barry White, big time R&B singer. He's no longer with us, but he was deemed as the maestro. He had this all-female orchestra. He has Sun and Pluto in Virgo, and then he has a stellium in Libra, Moon conjunct Uranus in Libra. That could point to that all-woman orchestra because that's very unique. And then he has Jupiter and Mercury in Libra as well, Mars in Sagittarius, Venus in Leo. On to the dark manifestations. Oh, and I forgot to mention Michael Jackson, of course. He's on the light and the dark. He's on the light in terms of his catalog of music and his dancing and all that stuff, that perfectionist. And he also cared about animals. So just think about how he had Neverland, and he had his own zoo, his own menagerie at Neverland. He loved Bubbles the chimp. So he was very much a Virgo in that light. But on the dark side, he was super insecure, always, picking at what was wrong with himself. And he was probably difficult to work with as well. Probably wanted things to a letter, wanted things to the letter, wanted things to the T. And then he also had the issue with the questionable sexuality and him wanting to hang around children and stuff. Then so Michael Jackson's chart, I went into his chart before, so I'm not going to waste time on that. So Foxy Brown, did I pull her chart? Please say I did. Foxy Brown, yes, I did. Foxy Brown is a Virgo, and she has been in the news over the years where she strikes out on her assistants, and like she's been charged with violence and assault and all that stuff. So she was born on September 6, 1978. Now, sixes, they can be prima donnas, and that's what Foxy Brown definitely is. So she has Sun, Saturn, and North Node in Virgo, and then she has Venus at the 29th degree of Libra. She has Mars in Libra, so Mars and Venus are conjoined. That points to her being violent with people. Mars is conjoined to Pluto as well, so Venus, Mars, and Pluto are all conjoined, and in that stellium in Libra. Moon in Scorpio, Uranus in Scorpio, so she's working with some like serious negative energy. So no wonder why she can't keep her hands off of people. Then she got Moon opposition Chiron. Yeah, she got it bad. Jada Pinkett Smith. Now, she's on a light manifestation on the light side in terms of some things, but I'm going to put her on the dark side simply because of her being such a control freak and how she is with her children. Just the type of children that, like, so she has Sun conjunct Pluto. Surprise, surprise. Makes sense. Like I said, she's a control freak. Then she got Moon and Mercury in Virgo. So she has a stellium in Virgo. Moon, Mercury, Sun, Pluto, and then she has Venus conjoined to Uranus in Libra. And then the kicker is she has Mars conjoined to North Node in Aquarius. They're both at the 12th degree. I'm going to do a video about her before Virgo season is up. That's right. And then she has Jupiter conjoined to Neptune, both at the 0 degree of Sagittarius, and it's opposing her Saturn in Gemini. So that ought to show you right there that, she's kind of very unique and eccentric. And, Virgos aren't known to be eccentric. So that just points to it right there where you can still see the Virgo in her strong. It still predominates, but she is an eccentric person at the same time, and that speaks of her Mars conjoined to North Node in Aquarius. She also has that bisexual thing going on too. So, the rumors about her and Will, I don't even really think they're rumors anymore. I think they're basically stated facts. Charlie Sheen, another Virgo, messy Virgo. He's one of those dudley do-wrongs. September 3rd, 1965. He has his Sun conjoined to Uranus and Pluto, so he has a stellium in Virgo, Sun, Uranus, and Pluto in Virgo. No wonder why he is the way he is. And they're opposing, guess what? Chiron and Saturn in Pisces. Now, he's had a lifelong issue with drug addiction and sex addiction. So there it is right there. And then he got Mars in Scorpio. That could produce somebody that's hypersexual alone, but it's conjoined to Neptune in Scorpio, making a quincunx to his North Node in Gemini. He's just all over the place. Then he has Moon in Sagittarius, opposing Jupiter in Gemini, which points to excess to no end, especially with respect to women. Lord, and we all know that he used to brag about getting with these porn stars. Cat Williams is another messy Virgo. He's on the light manifestation and the dark because he's done some good, and he's very funny. However, he has some serious emotional problems, and that makes sense with his birth number being a 2. He was born on September 2nd, 1973. His Mercury is conjoined to his Sun in Virgo. His Venus is conjoined to Uranus in Libra. He has Pluto in Libra as well, so he has that Libra stellium that a lot of Virgos have. He has Moon in Scorpio. He has North Node in Capricorn, South Node in Cancer conjoined to Saturn. There was another person that had South Node in Cancer conjoined to Saturn. Who was it that I mentioned? And I was like, ooh. Oh, wait a minute. Was it Tyler Perry? No. Oh, well, moving along. I can't remember who that was that I mentioned that had. Was it Nas? I think it might have been Nas that had the Saturn conjoined to his South Node in Cancer. And then Margaret Sanger. Did I pull her chart? Margaret Sanger was the founder of Planned Parenthood, or at least one of the founders, and she was very much for birth control. She was a proponent of birth control, but some people have said that she was also a proponent for eugenics and that she wanted to eradicate the black race. And she was actually quoted as saying something, but people are trying to say that they took her out of context. So she has a stellium in Virgo consisting of the Moon, Mercury, Uranus, and her Sun. So her Sun and Moon are in Virgo along with Mercury and Uranus. So that's somebody that is like a super control freak. They want things to go a certain way in society, and they want that's that whole family planning, Planned Parenthood. That's a stellium in Virgo all day. And then she got a stellium in Taurus. That's Planned Parenthood as well, because Taurus deals with having standards, basically being cautious, being security-oriented. And then she got North Node in Capricorn. That's being disciplined. And look, that North Node in Capricorn, it completes the Grand Trine. So she has a Grand Trine involving North Node in Capricorn. That's stellium in Taurus. And the stellium, just her Sun in Virgo. The stellium that consists of Uranus, Mercury, and the Moon, that's in the early degrees of Virgo, while her Sun is at the 21st degree. But nevertheless, it's a stellium in Virgo. She got that stellium in Taurus. I've known that I've seen like cult leaders to have stelliums in Taurus. That's pretty common with cult leaders. And you might as well say she was kind of like a cult leader because she espoused these certain values and was very adamant about taking certain precautions, and she worked closely with blacks to create these Planned Parenthood clinics in the inner city and whatnot. A couple of more. Amy Winehouse, Virgo. Caligula, Virgo. Caligula was one of the most debauched emperors of Rome. So he was a Virgo. He was born, I even have his chart. He was born in 12 AD. And his south node is Scorpio, which points to him being just nasty. Mars and Leo, hypersexual. He has Sun, Jupiter, and Mercury in Virgo. So Caligula, one of the nastiest emperors, one of the most hated emperors. They actually killed him. Was a Virgo. Amy Winehouse, she has her Sun and Mercury in Virgo, and it's forming a square to her north node in Gemini. Her south node is Sagittarius. She had problems with excess. She also had Moon conjoined to Neptune. That is the drug addiction. Not just Moon conjoined to Neptune, she also has Sun square Neptune as well, so she had it really bad with the addiction. Super bad. And then she had Mars conjoined to Venus in Leo, so she was very much a party girl. So she was always photographed out in the clubs and out in the street just looking so disheveled, so just broken down. She looked sick all the time. So she was one of those messy Virgos. And then Ben Carson, he's a Virgo, and it makes sense because a lot of people call Ben Carson a coon. And one of the things I did mention about if you're going to call signs, if you're going to name two signs that could be accused of coonery, that's going to be Virgo and Capricorn, but two earth signs. So Ben Carson is a Virgo. I'm not calling him a coon, though. I really don't care about him at all. And then a couple of more. You have Frank Lucas. Frank Lucas was that gangster drug dealer back in Harlem in the 60s and 70s, and he was a drug kingpin, and he cut out the middleman, and he became a millionaire as a result, and he ended up going to trial, did years in prison, but then he was released early. That movie, American Gangster, is about Frank Lucas. So Frank Lucas was a Virgo, and it makes sense because Virgos are all about order and everything, and they're good with creating processes and being efficient, and that's exactly what he was, and that's how he was able to cut out the middleman. So Frank Lucas had his sun at the 16th degree of Virgo, and it was forming a trine to his Chiron and Taurus. That's him dealing with that heroin, like the plants, because he actually went to, was it Vietnam or Cambodia, and he actually got the drugs directly there from the supplier there. He also has Neptune trine Saturn. So that just shows you, like, even if somebody is doing some criminal act, which he was, that Saturn trine Neptune enabled that criminal act because Neptune deals with drugs, and that Neptune was in Virgo, and Virgo deals with distribution. So he had a nice distribution system going. Saturn deals with business. His Saturn was in Capricorn. He had the perfect setup to be the drug kingpin. Perfect. And his north node was in Aries, and that points to doing things on your own. His birth number is a 9. That brought to Mars in Aries. He had Moon in Aries, Uranus in Aries. So, and he had a stellium in Cancer, which makes him very determined to succeed, very determined to take care of his own, to take care of his family, to keep things in-house, to not have to outsource, and that's exactly what he did. And then last but not least, Lance Armstrong. Lance Armstrong is that bicyclist that got caught out there for drugging. He was doping. So Lance Armstrong, American former pro road racing cyclist who won the Tour de France 7 consecutive times. So he won 7 consecutive times from 1999 to 2005, but was stripped of those victories in 2012 after a protracted doping scandal. So Lance Armstrong has those typical classic Virgo looks, the sharp features, the keen features, everything's delicate. He has those little beady eyes. Not saying all Virgos have beady eyes, but he has those small, tight eyes. He has a tight mouth. Let me just pull his chart real quick. So he has a stellium in Virgo, consisting of Mercury, Moon, Sun, and Pluto. His Sun is conjoined to Pluto. So that can make him obsessed with becoming a perfectionist. So that points to him saying, okay, like that Pluto is saying all or nothing, do or die. At all costs, I'm going to do what it takes to succeed. Even if it means doing things in a criminal or underhanded way, which Pluto can represent, criminal tendencies, doing things in an underhanded manner. And then, let me see where his Neptune is. His Jupiter is conjoined to Neptune in Sagittarius, and they are forming a sextile to his Venus. So that points to him being able to be that refined bicyclist as a result of doping. And then he had Neptune and Jupiter opposing his Saturn and Gemini. That's it coming out in the media because Gemini deals with the media. So basically, and that Saturn is his downfall. That deals with him getting spanked, him being charged with that. And then he had Mars conjoined to North Node in Aquarius. So that points to him being an athlete, being a unique athlete, winning all those times, breaking records, because Aquarius can deal with being a record breaker, breaking those records, but also Aquarius can also deal with that which is artificial. So he resorted to artificial means, almost wanting to become a robot, which is Aquarius. So with that Mars conjoined to the North Node, they're both at the 12th degree. He wanted to become almost like a robot, be very mechanical. Virgo is the mechanical part. Robotic part is the Mars conjoined to North Node in Aquarius. So he wanted to become very mechanical, very robotic, and that's why he took those performance-enhancing drugs. Okay, so that concludes my take on Virgo. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you found it insightful. I was going to read some of Linda Goodman's book, but I totally forgot. Linda Goodman has this book called Linda Goodman's Sun Signs. And if you want to get the nitty-gritty on all of the sun signs, I strongly advise you to get this book. This book was published back in 1968. And the thing I love about that, a lot of astrologers back then, they kept it real. Now, that was right at the edge of the whole counterculture revolution. The counterculture movement with the hippies generation, they kind of did a disservice to astrology because that hippie generation was all about the feel-good generation. If it feels good, do it. It's the me generation. So if they didn't like the way things sound, that's when a lot of baby boomer astrologers started to come on the scene and start writing books, and they started publishing books in the 80s and 90s and whatnot, even 2000s, and some of them are very watered down in terms of how they interpret the signs and the planets and all that. So that's why I like books that are from back in the day, because that is, they basically keep it real, more so. All right, so I only have a few people on the line. I'm actually kind of glad because, like I said, I'm kind of in pain tonight. So I'm going to pick the first number because they have their hand up, like they want to ask a question. So 832-792. Welcome to the Ace of Cups radio show. Who am I speaking with?
You still can't recognize my number. Shame on you.
I sure can. I'm sorry, Answer. I'm like that way. I wouldn't be able to recognize my own mother's number. I'm telling you. And that's the honest God truth.
Well, that's Sagittarian energy anyway, because Sagittarian energy is always doing this, that, and everything else.
It's horrible. But I love it at the same time. How are you doing? And
I'm doing
my God, and I totally I was about to say I totally forgot, and that's my Mercury in Sagittarius, because I think I even wrote it down on my to-do list, and then because it's not like an actual appointment, sometimes if I don't get a reminder, so like you should have just texted me. Like always, don't be afraid to text me if I'm supposed to do something.
I always do,
'Cause
but
didn't
I
get
have
a chance.
Sagittarian energy too. So Sagittarian energy with Jupiter, signs that have that commonality of the traditional planet, they may be very different, but they still have things in commonality. And much like Sagittarius, it's kind of like it's contingent upon how the day is going and how they feel at times. So,
and I didn't know, but the thing is, I've been very busy, and I'm going to tell you why I forgot, because I was working on a natal, and I didn't get that natal done until Wednesday, and I was supposed to call you on Tuesday just to, I think you were going to give me an update on your situation or something like that, but that is why, because I was in a zone, and I was like in a mental quarantine because I was like, I got to get this natal done. But, yeah, that's the reason, or else I would have remembered. And but what I'm doing though, I'm helping you live through your North Node in Sagittarius though. Because with Sagittarius, you got to be laid back. You just got to be like, hey, I get to it when I get to it.
Exactly, and that was
I may not be on time, but I'm gonna be there. Yeah,
exactly, and that was my point. So of course we'll get there whenever we get there. That's fine, and everything is going fine. I just sent off the certified paperwork, and China is very strict, but they approved all of my paperwork. I sent it out to the school, so the school is in the process of translating all of my documents, which will take approximately 2 to 3 weeks, maybe a month.
Nice. Now, with your moon in Virgo, I know getting those documents together. I know this whole process. I know it's not stressing you out like it would stress me out. I probably have a nervous breakdown by now. But with that Virgo moon, are you still feeling like the stress though?
No, it was more so of getting things done. It kept me, I've always had that energy, but getting things done and getting things done right. So yes, it was a little bit of a stress, but that insatiable need to want to get things done right. When I tell you that I spoke to the agencies every day, I spoke to the school representatives out there in China every week, emails. It's that Virgo need, especially with Pluto in my 6th house, wanting to get things done and get things done right and making sure that everything works out the way I need it to work out or wanted to work out for the vision that we've been talking about. So, yes, that too. And you also mentioned something else about Moon and Virgo. No, you said something about integration and moving on. And when you spoke about that in the duration of the call and the duration of the show, that is completely me with the Moon and Virgo and the strong energy in the 6th house, integrating in a whole other culture and having to start over and learn new manners and new discipline and all that stuff. That is totally me right now.
Yes, and I said this on my 5 Reasons Why I Love Virgo video. I said, but I think this could be said for all, like basically most Asian cultures. I feel like the Japanese culture is very Virgo, but you could say the same about the Chinese culture as well, especially back in the day with the Chinese culture. Now they're a little bit more modernized and they've lost a lot of their customs and mannerisms and stuff. But it was all about saving face with Japan and China. And you never wanted to lose face with somebody, meaning like you never wanted to embarrass yourself or disgrace yourself. And disgracing the family was very big. Even nowadays with the Japanese, at least I know, you don't disgrace your family. You don't disgrace your name. You don't disgrace your employer. None of that. And that's why there's a high suicide rate with respect to people like that work in Tokyo and stuff. And it's because they have so much pressure. That Virgo, they succumb to the stress. And that stress will send you over the edge. And just being about work all the time, like basically, like that's the Japanese culture, like work, work, work. Yes, they have their fun, but if you notice, if you look at Tokyo, they like overcompensate for the fun, and that's why there's like vending machines everywhere, and there's like those internet cafes everywhere, and all that stuff, because they need to balance that out, to balance that work culture out, and to balance those strict customs and etiquette. But what were you gonna say?
Well, nothing. I'm just sitting here listening to you, taking energy from you. Of course, we'll talk at a later time, but if anything that you think that I should know about this Virgo energy that I have here? Because Mercury, speaking of Virgo, Mercury just went direct. Now it's in Leo, but it'll be transiting back through the shadow periods, getting out of the shadow periods of, the Mercury retrograde that we just had, and it's going to be going back into Virgo. So is there anything that you foresee with that, especially since it's going to be transiting over my moon?
Let me see. It seems like when that Mercury transits over your moon, that'll be when something becomes official with your paperwork. That's what I'm thinking. Like you'll get like that stamp of approval.
Yay!
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That's what it's going to activate, because the moon can deal with nations, and it can deal with where you're relocating, and that could just be that. Okay, here's that official stamp. It could be where you get your what is it? Are you getting a temporary work visa? Is that what it is?
I'm getting a work visa, and she said that the paperwork should take approximately 2 weeks to a month to finish, and then from there I can apply for the visa, and that visa will be maybe for like a couple of years of being out there.
Okay. So let me just see something.
The time frame that you have for that. That sounds like maybe later on in the month, or maybe early October. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, I was about to get time frame for that real quick. So 7 degrees, that's what we were looking at. Bear with me 1 minute. Mercury. Okay, so that is going to be September 16th.
Whoa.
7 days.
Okay.
7 days. Oh, and the theme of that is basically it's stating that basically it looks like all systems are going to be go. You're going to get some green light. You're going to get the go ahead to basically. It seems like all things will be basically taken care of at that point. Not just about everything, but you're going to get some type of confirmation that, okay, you've completed the necessary steps. This is what you need to do at this point. And you're going to feel like, okay, it's really, really official now.
Yep. Such a queen that you read my mind. Okay, well, that sounds about right. That's much sooner than what I anticipated, actually. Wow. I guess it was that retrograde that was slowing everything down.
Yeah, Mercury's it's about to speed up. But so you got about a week. Oh no, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. You're ready. But thank you so much for being such a loyal listener and supporter, and we're going to have to catch up, especially around that time when Mercury lands on your moon. So that next week, actually, will be a good time to catch up and see how that manifested.
Well, whenever you're ready. I appreciate you. And like I tell you, every time I get on the phone, I believe in what you do. And I'm sitting here listening with someone else, and they're like, well, she's really passionate about what she does. And that's what I love. And that's why you have people that, really are loyal or really, believe in what you have going, because you're very passionate about it, and that is something that is very rare. So keep doing a great job, and of course I'm going to be loyal because I appreciate what you do.
Oh, thank you so much, and many blessings to you.
Many blessings. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, that was my girl Amethyst, one of my most loyal listeners. So the other person just dropped off the line. They must have felt that I was about to pick up their line. But actually, I'm cool with ending this show early tonight because, like I said, my back is aching, and I got to run to the store, and I got to handle some things. Then I got to jump on some reports that are due within the next couple of days. So I'm just going to close out with some music, and I'm just going to end this particular episode Let me see if I got some Virgo stories, something enlightening to share about Virgo. But one thing I did notice, I was thinking about all the friends I had over the years, and I'm like, I can't particularly recall having a lot of Virgo female friends. But it makes sense because with Virgo intercepted in my 8th, a lot of that's reserved to the mates that I get with, like people I get in relationships, especially sex partners. And then the 8th house and the 11th house, they square each other naturally in terms of houses, and the 11th house deals with friendship. So it makes sense that I really haven't had any Virgo friends over the years, but I'm always open to having a Virgo friend. It's not like I'm against it. But Virgo boyfriends, yeah, that's been pretty common in my life, from the Virgo suns to Virgo moons, Virgo rising. And I've learned that while we can be very compatible in some respects, there's a lot of drama, there's a lot of emotional turmoil, and I really don't want to have to deal with that type of relationship again. Just that 8th house relationship is always going to be very dynamic, and it can be full of crises. So you really got to be built for an 8th house relationship, and I've learned over the years that I'm not really built for that. I'm not really built like that. So that's basically all I wanted to say. Thank you so much for listening and for sticking with me through thick and thin through this Ace of Cups show, and I'll be having many more episodes. My next episode of the Ace of Cups radio show will be airing on September 23rd. I'm not sure what the topic's going to be, but just know that it will be good, and I'm looking forward to it. Also, before I go, I just want to put out there that I am offering classes. I had a few students earlier this year, but now I'm officially offering classes to the public. And these classes are one-on-one classes for astrology, and later on this year I might, or maybe next year I'll start offering tarot classes. But my classes are from the beginner level, intermediate, and advanced. So you could take one of the 3, and I have a 3-week option or 6-week option for courses. So if you would like more information about that, just email me at karma3675@aol.com. And also you can go to my website if you would like a reading at rahbinah.com. That's RAHBINAH.com. And also you'll see my prices of my courses on the homepage of my website as well. So I'm going to close out with, I'm going to say it's my theme song in terms of being a spiritual advisor. I played this song for the last episode. It's by Van Morrison. It's called Into the Mystic. So peace and many blessings, everyone. Have a lovely evening and enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'm out.